What's up, wealth builders? I'm Chase Sloan and I make Houston real estate easy. And today I'm tackling a massive question for anyone living in Houston right now. Should you rent or should you buy? And I'm really going to break down the numbers to help you figure out which path makes the most sense for your wallet. Because I understand the feeling. It's a question that probably nags at you every single time you send off that rent payment. Am I just throwing money away here? It feels like there's got to be a better way. And figuring out that next step can be super confusing. And that's why I'm here to help. And I share this from my article, Wealth and Cash Flow Explained on Substack, yet I think that this sums it up. It's not just about making anyone feel bad either about renting. It's about giving you the tools and the actual math to make a smart decision. Because if we're honest, what made sense a few years ago might not be the right move in Houston's market today. So first things first, let's talk about the true cost of renting. It's so easy to see it as that one monthly check. Yet the real financial story is a lot deeper than that. The number one mistake most people make is that they put their rent payment side by side with a potential mortgage payment. And yet in my article, I share that that's like comparing apples to oranges. And the reason is because your rent payment should be compared to the wealth that you could be building. Let me show you what that means. Let's just say for a pretty realistic number for people in Houston that your rent is $2,100 a month. That's our starting point. But you know how it goes. After 12 months, time goes by and it's time to renew. And now that number almost creeps up. It jumps to $2,250, which is super common. And that trend keeps on going. By the time you hit year 3, you could easily be looking at $2,400 a month. And for what? The exact same apartment? So what's the bottom line here? Well, when you do the math, over just 3 short years, you have handed over $75,000. Think about that. That's a huge chunk of money that has completely vanished from your bank account and is not building anything for you. It's just gone. The article actually gives a name, and I think this is powerful, and I call it the wealth penalty. Because it's not just about the cash you paid out, it's about the opportunity you lost. What could that money have been doing? Building your equity, growing as your home's value goes up, and even getting you some tax breaks. And so that's the story on renting. Now let's flip that coin and get you into the buy math. This is where we stop talking about monthly expenses and start talking about the powerful wealth building tool. You see, a mortgage payment, it isn't just a bill. It's got 3 financial engines working for you. First, part of your payment goes towards the principal, which means you're basically paying yourself. That equity becomes your own. Second, your home value grows over time. That's appreciation. And third, you can get some pretty nice tax benefits. Renting gives you 0 of these. And when you see it laid out like this, the difference is incredible. Your annual financial return when you rent is always going to be 0. Always. However, by a pretty typical $350,000 home in Houston, between value growing and you paying down the loan, that could add up to over $22,000 in wealth in just 1 year. The contrast is staggering. Now, this is not a you must buy a house right now speech. This report is super clear on this. Sometimes renting, it absolutely is the smarter, most strategic move. And sometimes renting can be the smarter play. Like if you're laser focused on saving up for a really strong down payment over the next year and a half, or if your job is a bit up in the air and you think you might want to move soon. And, let's just be honest. If you're not ready to fix leaky faucets and HOA meetings, renting gives you that flexibility. And yet there is this moment when the math really just starts to shift. And in my article, I share this as the wealth tipping point. It's the point when renting stops being strategic and it starts becoming a steady drain on your financial future. So how do you know if you're at that point? I share that in my article to ask yourself 3 simple questions. First up, have you been living in Houston for more than 3 years? If the answer is yes, you've probably already missed out on some pretty significant home value growth. Second question, take a look at your rent payment. Is it creeping up to that $2,000 mark? Or maybe it's already past it, and that magic number is a lot of Houston neighborhoods where a mortgage payment starts to look very, very similar. And the last one, and this is huge, is if you have a steady job, your income is reliable, and you don't really have a long-term financial plan locked in. If you're sitting there nodding yes to these questions, the chances are you are smack dab in the middle of that tipping point. And now let's look at this on the table. This is the whole story. Projected over 5 years, and the numbers are just massive. If you keep renting, your payments go up, you gain zero equity, zero appreciation, and you get no tax protections. That's just $150,000 just gone. However, when you buy, your payment stays relatively stable. You're building equity, your home value is growing, and here in Texas, you get that awesome homestead cap on property taxes. The final result, you could be over $100,000 richer, and it's a completely different financial outcome. So this brings us to the biggest question of what your path is going to be for 2026. Now that we've kind of laid out the math, it's time to figure out what your next best move is really. And you know what? It's actually simpler than you may think. You don't need a crazy, complicated spreadsheet. According to my article, you really only need 3 key pieces of your own information to get some real clarity, and here they are. And it really is this simple. What you're paying in rent right now, how much cash you have saved up for a potential down payment, and just a clear look at your credit score and what other debts you have. With those 3 things, you can get a surprisingly accurate picture of where you stand. And that leaves me with my final thought. When you look ahead to 2026, the choice really boils down to, is that monthly housing payment you're making buying you strategic short-term flexibility? Or are you just building your landlord's wealth instead of your own? Only you can answer that, yet now you've got the math to help you figure it out.